What's up, my people? This is ShowBizz the Adult. Alright, man, look at the road. Look at the road. Alright, man, look. My last video about Danny Garcia versus Errol Spence, a fight that I'm very excited about. I did read a lot of my comments, which I do. And a lot of people aren't that excited about Danny Garcia versus Errol Spence. And the name that's being brought up constantly is that Terence Crawford. I think it should be. Terence Crawford versus Errol Spence is one of those things. Manny Pacquiao versus Floyd Mayweather. Sugar Ray Leonard versus Tommy Hearns. Parnell Whitaker versus Chavez. Oscar De La Hoya versus Trinidad. All of those fights that we were looking forward to. And some of them came way too late. Like Manny Pacquiao versus Floyd Mayweather. Some came right on time. Sugar Ray Leonard versus Tommy Hearns. Which one would this be? First, I want to kind of look at those fighters. And I thought it was extremely appropriate that people felt that Errol Spence, the jury was out on him. And there was a lot of questions that needed to be answered. I think that fight with Shawn Porter, a few of the questions were answered. A question that was answered is, well, how does he do against an elite fighter? But I don't disrespect Shawn Porter that way. I want to know how would Shawn Porter look against Errol Spence, how Errol Spence would look against Shawn Porter. It's not like Shawn Porter was the benchmark for Errol Spence. Shawn Porter was the WBC champion. I don't disrespect Shawn Porter that way. But Errol Spence victorious. Some of the questions were answered. His grit, his heart, his will, you know, all those things that you kind of suspected. But it was proven that night. His stamina, his body, his strength, how does he deal with pressure? All those things was answered. What wasn't answered was his chin. Okay, I still don't think that question has been answered. And I think somebody like Danny Garcia will help answer that one. Okay, so that's why I'm excited about that fight. But what confuses me, what leaves me a bit perplexed, is that there were questions to be answered for Errol Spence, but for some reason, when it comes to Terence Crawford, all of the questions been answered. When I think of Terence Crawford, his resume and what he's done, I think he's an excellent fighter. I think him being undisputed at 140, that was a great accomplishment, especially with him growing just increasingly. Okay, he's growing out of the weight class, so he had to get it done, and he did. But when I look at his resume, look at who he's fought. You got Ndongo, right? Ndongo, I think his name was, my bad if I, no disrespect to him and not saying his name properly. But you had him, and the fashion in which Terence Crawford beat him was, I mean, we all took notice to that. You had John Molina Jr., we know where he's at. You got Victor Postal, a good fighter. But that was all at 140, I think, right? I think that was at super light. But Victor Postal, he lost to Josh Taylor, which a loss is a loss. That doesn't mean you're not a good fighter. Victor Postal, he's a good fighter. You have people like Felix Diaz on Terence Crawford resume. But the big one that people bring up is Gamboa, which to me, that's a good fight, but I wasn't shocked there. Okay, Terence Crawford, he is a legit 147-pounder. He's 5'8", 74-inch reach. If you look at Errol Spence, he's 5'9", 72-inch reach. So Terence Crawford is very much a welterweight. So him beating Gamboa at 135, I knew Terence Crawford being a big 135-pound, big lightweight. But on top of that, extremely skilled Gamboa. How that fight looked is how it should have looked. Gamboa ain't have a shot against that guy. But that's a testament to what Terence Crawford possessed as a fighter. But when it comes to all of the questions being answered when it comes to Terence Crawford, that leaves me a bit perplexed. I think what I do when I look at Terence Crawford is what I do when I look at Errol Spence. I look at two guys with a lot of skill. They don't have to fight all of the great fighters for me to know that they're extremely skillful, good fighters. Terence Crawford, a very good fighter. But not all of the questions been answered with him, especially at welterweight. Him fighting Benavidez, him fighting Jeff Horn, him taking on Amir Khan. I would love to see what Terence Crawford do against Shawn Porter. I would love to see what Terence Crawford does against Danny Garcia, what he does against the likes of Keith Thurman. So Errol Spence taking on Kell Brook and beating him, taking on Shawn Porter and beating him. I think we've seen more from Errol Spence, especially when it comes to the welterweight division. When it comes to Terence Crawford, I would like to see what he does against a guy that's closer to his size, more his size, and very skillful. When I match these two guys up, like I did before, matching up their resumes, when I look at Gamboa and Terence Crawford, I kind of compare that to Mikey Garcia and Errol Spence. When I see guys like John Molina and I think of Bundu and Victor Postal and guys like Kell Brook, and when I think of Algieri and guys like Felix Diaz and Lamont Peterson and when you look, I mean, it's not like they fought world beaters, okay? Terence Crawford didn't fight world beaters, though he became undisputed. But who are those guys? Good fighters, but not world beaters, okay? With that said, I think Terence Crawford is a great fighter. What perplexes me is that people don't have the same questions. People aren't even and unbiased across the board when it comes to looking at those two and analyzing and comparing those two. But on top of that, as a boxing fan, I don't understand why everything amounts to Terence Crawford and Errol Spence. There's so many fights out there to be made. I think everybody would be really salivating over a Keith Thurman versus Terence Crawford, Manny Pacquiao versus Terence Crawford. Like I said, Shawn Porter, Danny Garcia versus Terence Crawford. He's not getting those fights, and we know why. It's the politics. But I would like to see him. Shawn Porter, he called Terence Crawford out. It's something. The whole analogy, the whole idea that Errol Spence must fight Terence Crawford. Errol Spence must fight Shawn Porter to prove where he is. Errol Spence must fight these guys. But Terence Crawford, he must fight Shawn Porter. He must fight Danny Garcia. He must fight these guys. All of these guys, to put Errol Spence on this pedestal as the king of kings, where all these guys must line up so Errol Spence can prove his dominance. These guys should fight each other. This isn't the Errol Spence show. I would like to know what you guys think in the comments below. I mean, that's just my idea of the whole thing. I don't have any of these guys as the dominant force. Like I said, they're all razor thin close. And if Shawn Porter and Errol Spence were to fight again, I don't know the outcome. But I'd love to see Terence Crawford against these boys. Maybe these boys should go ahead and fight each other. I'll tell you this. Bob Arum said that he would give some money, a step aside money for Terence Crawford's next opponent today if Errol Spence were to pick up the phone. So they're looking for an Errol Spence fight. But I wonder if, are they looking for a Shawn Porter fight? I would love to see that. Are they looking for a Terence Crawford fight? I would love to see that. Let me know what you all think in the comments below. Should Terence Crawford be fighting some of these boys, or is it Errol Spence or nothing? ShowBizz the dope. I'm out.